This is the last place anyone expected the truth to be found. A quiet apartment pool deck, an unlocked car, keys still in the ignition, and a single inexplicable clue on the ground behind the car bumper. Tonight, we're going back to Gastonia, North Carolina, the year 1975, to the disappearance of Steve Lewis Arrowood Jr., known as Lewis to his family, an 18-year-old who told his friends he was being followed, and then vanished. If you've never heard of this case, you're not alone, but once you hear the details, you won't forget them. So stay with me, because the final minutes before Lewis disappeared include a car that wouldn't stop telling him, and a letter that showed up 3 days too late, supposedly. Lewis Arrowood was the kind of kid families build futures around. 18, blue-eyed, blonde hair, had a small reddish birthmark on his chin. He had the kind of quiet presence that makes people feel safe. He lived with his parents on Chestnut Street in Gastonia, just west of Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, reports differ on his age. Most say 18. One or two here or there list him as being 19. But either way, still a teenager. Now, the spring of 1975, that seemed to be a hinge in Lewis's life. Earlier that March, he just left home abruptly, left a note, withdrew about $815 from his savings, and in today's value, that'd be roughly $4,800. Well, he withdrew that money from his savings and he took off. Days later, a letter arrived. He said he was okay. He'd found a job. He'd gone to Dallas, Texas, to see a 30-year-old married woman that he'd been involved with. Then it gets dangerous. The woman's husband, who happened to be a long-haul truck driver, he found out about the affair, and according to accounts, he threatened to kill Lewis. The wife reportedly calmed him down and agreed to travel to New Orleans with her husband if he promised not to hurt Lewis. So Lewis, he returned to Gastonia on March 31st. The woman later denied ever seeing Lewis again after his visit to Texas. Did Lewis come home because he feared he was being followed? And by who? We'll circle back on that one. Now, on April 3rd, 1975, Lewis has dinner with his sister at the Fern Forest Apartments in Gastonia. After dinner, he heads out with a friend, and not long after, Lewis tells that friend that a car is following them. He believes it's the husband's car. Well, the friend, he can't ID the driver, but does confirm the car is in fact following them. Lewis drops his friend off at East 3rd Street around 10:30 p.m. That's the last confirmed sighting of Lewis alive. But here's a detail that I just find strange. A letter postmarked from New Orleans arrives on April the 7th, 3 days after Lewis disappeared. Police open it, hoping for answers, but they say it contained nothing helpful. Well, who was the letter from? What did the letter say? Why then? We're going to talk about that because timing is everything in this case. Quick gut check. What's your first theory? Jealous husband rage? Voluntary disappearance? Or maybe something else entirely? Drop your take in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're from Gastonia and remember the Fern Forest Apartments in the 70s, your comments could matter. Now, the timeline points to a volatile triangle. Lewis, a married woman, and a jealous husband who had just threatened him days earlier. Now, Lewis believed he was being followed. A car had tailed him the night before he vanished. Those are strong narrative beats. 2 weeks later, police locate and question the husband. He refused a polygraph test and was released. This man has never been publicly identified, so we can't name anyone here. No charges filed. Case goes cold. But if it was that simple, rage, confrontation, homicide, where is Lewis? The car's left open. There's no cleanup, no ruse, just messy abandonment. Did a confrontation happen maybe somewhere else? Was the car staged at Fern Forest? Or did something happen within steps of that open door? But before we answer, one crucial clue. Remember back at the beginning we talked about something being found behind the car by the bumper? Well, that was a pair of underwear. Whose were they? Why there? Was that evidence of a struggle somehow? Maybe a staged humiliation? Or just something completely mundane and misleading, considering it was by a swimming pool? We have a precedent. We know in March Lewis left home abruptly, that he withdrew $815, that he traveled across state lines. So we know he's capable of vanishing on purpose. But he also left behind an uncashed $500 tax refund check. Now that suggests he was planning on coming back home at some point. Or perhaps he just didn't care about it. But this time, something seems different. His keys remain in the ignition. He abandoned his car. And he never contacts family again. People who intend to flee usually don't leave their car running or the front car door open. And why vanish within hours of saying he was being followed? Voluntary disappearance doesn't fit this scenario. And what about that $500? If you were going to indeed disappear, wouldn't you want every dime that you could get your hands on? And still, what about that New Orleans letter? Could Lewis have been planning to meet someone again? If it contained nothing helpful, was it a signal meant only for him? Or a decoy just meant for the police to find? So picture this. It's the pool parking lot at night. Slick concrete. The hum of overhead lights. The gentle hollow slap of water against tile. Lewis pulls in. Maybe he relaxes just a bit. He's back where he's eating dinner with his sister. The door swings open. Then a second car noses right in behind. A confrontation begins. Fast but quiet. The keys stay in the ignition because there's no time to do anything else. The underwear may be ripped out of a gym bag, thrown, possibly, or planted as a final insult to confuse investigators. But an ambush here, well, that risks witnesses, apartment residents, someone taking out the trash, a smoker stepping outside. So why pick this spot? Unless the goal was indeed speed. Finish it in seconds. Move him to a second location and leave the car to be found. All part of misdirection. But if we flip the script, the car, well, that's not the crime scene. It's the message. Lewis may have been persuaded, coerced, or forced into a different vehicle before returning to Fern Forest. Staging his Toyota by the pool with the car door open and the keys in, well, that creates urgency without any answers. It also buys time if someone has to drive a distance to dispose of evidence. This is where someone with trucking roots or any job offering interstate mobility shifts from coincidence to opportunity. And then again, there's that letter, postmarked New Orleans on April 7th. If the husband and wife really traveled that way after March 30th, who mailed the letter? Why did it say nothing useful? Did the writer intend for it to arrive after Lewis was already gone? Lewis's father passed away in 2008, his mother in 2012. Their obituaries list Lewis as having preceded them. 4 sisters remain, so this isn't just a riddle. It's an empty chair at holidays. A name that stops conversations mid-sentence. And this is why we tell his story, because people deserve answers, and families deserve peace. What if the most obvious suspect isn't the one behind the wheel at all? What if the jealous husband narrative only masks someone else's obsession? A friend, a stranger, a passerby who saw a vulnerable moment, a young man alone, late at a semi-public pool deck. Or what if Lewis was lured into a parlay? Let's talk this out. And he never returned. That's surprising, but wait until you sit with this. The last minutes of Lewis's life, well, if they happened in that car, they were likely quiet. No gunshots, neighbors reported. No giant chase. Just some form of approach. A word, maybe a shove, a door left open, and then absence. Often the scariest crimes, they are the ones that no one hears. So again, if you're listening in or around Gastonia, North Carolina, did you ever hear of a teenager who disappeared from Fern Forest Apartments in the 70s? Any talk about a truck driver who came through town around that time? If you know something, no matter how small, come forward. The Gastonia Police Department phone number is 704-866-3300. If you have any information about this case, please come forward. Lewis Arrowood should have had a lifetime ahead. Instead, his story is just a set of questions waiting for a voice. If you can be that voice, be it. If this episode moved you, share it, rate it, leave a comment, but most importantly, take time to realize Lewis was a real person, and his family is still searching for answers. So again, if you know anything at all, please contact the proper authorities. Until next time, this is Tim Eubanks with the Bucklesbury Lemonade Podcast. Have a good one.